Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the South Downs National Park Authority's Policy and Resources Committee. My name's Melanie Hunt, and I'm the chair of the committee. I'd like to remind members that all of you have a primary responsibility for ensuring that the authority furthers the national park purposes and duty, that members regard themselves first and foremost as members of the authority, and that we will all act in the best interests of the authority and of the park, rather than as representatives of any interest groups. To minimise disruption, please could I ask you to switch your mobiles to silent and to leave quietly if you need to do so during the proceedings. Please may I remind members to speak clearly and directly into the microphone, bringing the microphone forward, no closer than 6 inches to avoid feedback. And please remember to turn your microphone off when you have finished speaking, otherwise you could be the object of ridicule. I'm really delighted to welcome Robson Peasley to her first meeting. Robson, you are our Secretary of State nominated member, aren't you? Yeah, welcome. And I'm also sad to note that this is the last P&R meeting for Laura Sercombe, who has been an absolutely fantastic director, leading the landscape team and providing an enormous amount of expert chief executive-like guidance from her previous world. Laura has been a real exemplar of a senior manager. She's provided a lot of support to the team and to members in a very humane and considered way. And Laura, I'm really grateful for everything that you've done, and particularly for your support to this committee. We have a very small gift, which the Vice Chair would like to give you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
I didn't want to call you that.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, lovely. Thank you.
I will also note, actually, sadly, it's going to be Anne Rehill's last meeting with us, and we'll have a chance to say goodbye to Anne after she's presented her item to us. Moving on then into the agenda proper. Apologies for absence. Richard.
We've received apologies for absence from Catriona Aves, John Cross, Chris Dowling, Mark Fairweather, Mark Potter, Andy Tree, and Stephen Whale.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you. Item 2, can I ask if any members wish to disclose an interest in any matter on the agenda? No? Okay, thank you very much. The minutes of the previous Policy and Resources meeting, item 3. I will just go through the minutes as page by page, as is customary. Sadly, I wasn't at this meeting, and I'd like to thank Stephen very much for chairing it. So if anyone who was there has any comments, please could you raise them. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, with one word on it. Okay, thank you very much, members. So can I take it that you are content with those minutes and that I can sign them? Could you please indicate with your hands? Thank you very much. Moving on, item 4, updates on previous committee decisions. I should just remind the committee that any updates under this item are not for debate, they are purely for information. And I'm going to ask Laura to give us an update on the River Meon splash route discussions that you'll recall we have considered a couple of times as committee. Laura.
Thank you, Melanie. This is just a quick, short update. There will be further updates during the course of the next few months as conversations progress. As you will know, water is one of the key priorities for the South Downs National Park's new Partnership Management Plan, our PMP, and we have ambitious targets in there, so we're very committed and determined to make a difference. The South Downs National Park Authority is working at the moment with Hampshire County Council as a matter of urgency due to concern in the community relating to the ongoing degradation of the River Meon at the T189 Mill Lane, otherwise known as the Splash Route. It's just to say, really, that the authority continues to work with the County Council and stands ready to assist them with the next steps of the work that they will be progressing. So more to follow in future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think as a committee it is important for us to note that work is progressing and that as a committee we are continuing to work with officers to ensure that this matter is brought to a conclusion, hopefully. Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Moving on then to item 5. I haven't been notified of any urgent matters. Item 6, we don't have any members of the public who wish to speak to us, as ever. Item 7, just to highlight to members that there is exempt information in Agenda Item 9, Appendix 3, Agenda Item 11, Appendices 4 and 5, and Agenda Item 18. When we get to those items, I will ask you if there's anything you wish to discuss in private session that is on either the pink papers or is confidential, and we will go into private session at that point in the meeting. Okay. Thank you. Moving on then to item 8, Chair Update. I've just got 4 items really. The first one is to congratulate the whole team, the whole staff team, particularly Laura, Anne, Ruth and Rebecca, who've masterminded the Partnership Management Plan. It was so much work right from the first meetings held with members of the public and ourselves, all the way through to production of a really excellent document, a very accessible and clear document, and then a fabulous launch out into the world. And I'd really like to express our thanks very much to the whole team for all the work that has gone into that. Because the launch particularly was great. It caused a lot of discussion around, and a lot of people even coming up to me, and I'm not a councillor or don't have a constituency as such, but a lot of people coming up to me and saying, oh, is that the plan that you've been talking about? You know, so it's reaching out there a long way. My second item is just to report to you that as part of my role as chair, I'm asked to approve bids for funding that can't come to this committee because of the timescales required. And I approved a bid from the team to the National Grid Landscape Enhancement Initiative Fund for a project which is called Boosting Butser's Butterflies. I have to be very careful how I say that. And that's a project with Hampshire County Council focused on habitat restoration on Butser Hill, 12 hectares there of chalk grassland, to reinstate conservation grazing in that area and to improve public access. The project has match funding from the Big Chalk project, and so that does mean there is already work that can start on that, which is commencing with, I think, water being piped to the relevant point so that grazing can start. So there's, that's a really positive project. Let's hope it's successful. My third item, again as chair, I had to respond to the external auditors, Grant Thornton, who annually ask me questions about the risk of fraud, potential litigation or claims affecting the authority, and the impact of legislation related to climate change. So on behalf of the committee, I have responded to all of those matters. And if anyone is that interested, you're very welcome to have a copy of my response. But do please ask. And then finally, a reminder to everybody, we have our P&R away day planned for the 23rd of April. There will be some things that we need to do that will come up on this agenda later on that I think we'll cover on our away day. But if members have any requests or ideas or anything that you really like to spend some time on that day, please let me know so that I can take that into account when drawing up the agenda. So thank you. That's all from me. No questions? No. Okay. Moving on then. Item 9, Corporate Risk Register. Richard.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So you have the report and the Corporate Risk Register before you. I don't propose to go through it in detail. Appendix 1, as usual, is the explanatory information. Appendix 2 is the Corporate Risk Register itself. And Appendix 3 also has exempt risks that are on the register. As I've set out in the report, there is one change to the register which I consider significant, risk 7.1. This has been updated to reflect the risks around the delivery of our recently approved partnership management plan. There's two other further ones of note as well. One is to risk 2.2 about the proposed granting of a general power of competence to national park authorities. This is through the devolution bill that's currently going through the Lords. And to risk 8.1 as well, about the postponed mayoral elections in Hampshire and Sussex as well. There are a number of other updates as well throughout the register, but I'll leave it there, Chair, and happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Richard. And thanks as ever for your work on this, because you have to work right across the organisation to get all the officers contributing. So I think we'll work through the risks so it's easier for us to have a discussion. Anyone would like to raise anything on risk 1.1, staffing? I just have one question about the updated line manager guidance to ensure a consistent approach to managing and supporting staff. I was just interested in how that will be monitored or reviewed. Don't know if anyone's able to answer that.
Do you want me or do you want me to? Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's being approved through our operational management team, the line manager guidance, and essentially how effective it proves to be and how closely line managers are adhering to it will be monitored through one-to-ones with their line manager as well. We'll also be seeking feedback the other way as well, so that to check that their line managers are indeed line managing the staff appropriately. We have a staff survey every 3 years as well, yeah. So that's another route through which we can seek feedback to see if the guidance is working. That's actually where the guidance originated from, the last staff survey. Yeah. It came up in there that there was some inconsistencies, it was felt perhaps, and so we decided that a guidance document was a useful way to ensure that line management was taking place in the same way across the organisation. So again, the staff survey would expect to flag up if this continued to be an issue in the future. Yeah,
thank you, Richard. I think that's really helpful. Yes, I remember the staff survey flagging that slight inconsistency in different areas. Anything else? Moving on to risk 2.1, finance and budgets. I think on this one, on the updates, we said we were awaiting formal notification of the grant from DEFRA. Vicky? Is that, are we? Yeah. Right. Formal, okay. Okay, that's all we can say. You're quite correct. Stephen? Oh, was it? Oh, sorry. Any other questions on that one? Income generation. Health and safety. It just occurred to me that the health and safety policy, and they give the example here of extreme weather being in place. I just wondered whether it was worth looking at that one in terms of how recently it was last updated, particularly given the fact that we are experiencing more extreme weather conditions, and there appear to be many more yellow warnings for the area of the national park. So I would just ask that perhaps the Health and Safety Committee could just have a look to make sure those policies are appropriate. Thank you very much. And it's good to see the SLT will be undertaking health and safety leadership training. So that's a really important part of this, and assuring that that's done properly. Seven Sisters Health and Safety. Yes, Arthur.
Thank you, Chair. It's an issue I've raised a couple of times before, but I'd just like to keep bringing it up again to see if there's any more progress to continue the conversation about cliff safety. So since our last committee meeting, there's been a cliff collapse at Berlin Gap on the stairs there, and visitors had to be roped to safety. So this is an issue that's constantly in the press, in the public eye. I'd just like to hear more, perhaps from Tim, about the nature of the Cliff Safety Partnership, if it's something that's taking preventative measures or if it's just about emergency responses after a cliff collapse.
Yeah, thanks very much, Arthur. Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Arthur. Timing's very good, actually, and one or two members might be aware we had our first or inaugural meeting of all the sort of landowners and key players across all the attractions, as we call them, in that area. And Darryl Gale came, who is the guru on cliff safety in this part of the world. And we've had a lot of dialogue in the last few weeks, months indeed. Yesterday, I was on the phone to somebody he'd put us in contact with around a strategy, primarily around visitor management and broader safety, but making sure that the cliff safety aspects were there. This was actually a company that had done it for the Cliffs of Moher, which has had similar issues. So I think it's fair to say we are improving those relationships. The measures that we are currently doing around supporting the Samaritan service there, around making sure there is some grazing where possible taking place. There's evidence that chills people out at the right time. And those are just a couple of examples of the sort of preventative measures we're taking, as well as that wider picture of getting a visitor management strategy that will focus in part on the safety, not just of the particular hotspots, but of the whole area.
Thank you. Robson.
Just on that with the health and safety at Seven Sisters, regarding the rivers, obviously lots of people try and cross the river at the tides and quite dangerous. Is there any update on what's being done to kind of manage that risk? Because obviously I think we think of the cliffs a lot, and obviously the cliff falls are dangerous, but likewise we're seeing this growing trend online of people, you have to cross through that bit. So yeah, just be an update on that.
I'm going to defer, if I may. There's a Seven Sisters paper later, and Claire Onslow will be here. Quite a lot of work has taken place, but I don't want to get it wrong. It's to do with social media, it's to do with signage, but we'll hold that thought.
Yeah, keep the question, Robson. Thank you. Okay, and any update to the road crossing as well? I suppose we'll save that for Claire, shall we? Or shall we do that one now, Tim? Because that's you, isn't it?
Probably myself, yeah, that's to do with assets rather than the operational management. Yeah. Yes, good news. We have worked, as you know, and provided the initial funding for the pre-feasibility study on the Seven Sisters crossing. We've now had that back. We've all agreed conceptually on a scheme that we can go forward with. Good news is that the county have recently advised us that they are now taking forward the scheme under their feasibility stage, which is the next stage, and hot off the press, they are putting their own money into it, which is the first time they've put their own money into it. And we also have a final broad figure of what it will cost, so we can all group around that and try and raise the funds. So
yeah,
good
excellent.
progress in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Tim, for taking that forward, because I think we all know how important that is.
It's just worth saying, once the figures are out there and we know, there's probably a shared ambition to make sure we can bump it up the priority list. And I think that's something that this committee and all our partners could usefully think about doing, so that it's in the earliest capital programme for the county, notwithstanding devolution. Yeah,
great. No, thank you very much. It's really helpful. Thank you. Moving on to risk 4.1, asset ownership. Any questions on that? 5.1, business continuity planning. 7.1, partnership working. Obviously, note Richard's point that this has been updated to ensure we do deliver the partnership management plan. Risk 7.2, capital programme. We'll probably talk about this in the finance paper, so any further questions we can take there. And 8.1, devolution. Yes, Tom.
Thank you. I appreciate that the papers will have been issued before the government's recent decision, but could you just throw some light for us on the potential implications for governance during the period of the elections, please?
Are you happy to do that, Richard?
Can I just check, so do you mean the mayoral elections or do you mean the county elections?
County.
Yeah, so as some of you may already know, the county elections, some of them were to be postponed, and apologies, I'd forgotten that I'd noted that as an update. So yes, East and West Sussex, Ada and Worthing were going to be postponed. They're not now, as you'll have seen, the government has withdrawn all those postponements for the elections. For us, it will mean potentially a bigger change on our board of our membership at May this year. For the councils, it does mean they are very quickly trying to get together the elections ready for May. As we already had some elections going on within the area of the national park, we were already prepared essentially to go through a pre-election period. So we had changed the date, for example, of our March NPA meeting to take account of that, and so that decisions that we were taking there weren't falling within the pre-election period. So in terms of actual impacts this has on us, to the membership, yes. To decisions that we might take and our sort of overall governance, those have mainly been taken into account already. But thank you for the question, Tom.
Thanks very much. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, colleagues, can I ask you, please, if you are in favour of the recommendation that's on the board, could you please raise your hands? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on then to item 10, which is the budget monitoring report, and I shall ask Vicky to give us an introduction.
Thank you. I'm being Craig today, so I'll do my best. The paper we're showing you today has 4 particular areas for your interest. Firstly, the revenue forecast position, which was generated at the end of period 9 for the rest of the financial year, which shows a move from the previous period's report where we showed an adverse variance of 300k to a favourable variance of 181k. This is attributable to 2 major areas. We've received more investment income than we planned, and also the planning income generated has also been over profile as well. So this is good news at this stage. The second area in the paper relates to the capital and projects work that we're carrying out. I think you'll find it's a fuller report than you've seen before. We're looking at a carry forward of about £2 million, which relates to funds that we've received that are due to be delivered in later years of the project, so projects that span different financial years. So we're expecting this, which is fine. The reserves position, you'll see that we're increasing our reserves with the 181k forecast outturn from our revenue position, but we're making a small draw from the planning reserve. So that's summarised in there. And the Treasury Management Overview will show you where our funds are invested and how they're performing. So I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Thanks. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Laura.
My question relates to the capital programme and funding. So obviously we've got that significant underspend and it's going to be spent in future years. What are the chances that that sort of will slip further in future years, to like what confidence do we have that then we will be able to spend it over the years that's been profiled?
The projects we have will have been costed in detail. I understand that how we deliver them is actually scheduled into people's work programmes. I can't speak for how they're actually going to be delivered at this stage, but we will be profiling them, reviewing their profile on a monthly basis anyway, throughout our monitoring process.
Laura, it's a good conversation, actually, because it's probably worth noting, just because we've talked about capital a lot in this room, that this is beyond the DEFRA capital project delivery as well. So these are the bigger projects that we've got that always plan to be multi-year.
Thank you. And while we're just on capital, can I double check, Laura, though, that whilst there is that underspend and understood, that we have spent the DEFRA allocation by year end, which was the big stick that we had to make sure we did.
Vicky doesn't want to answer this question, so I'm very happy to answer it. Yes, it continues to be a huge load to carry for Vicky and I in chasing and hunting down delivery, because it's difficult within year, 100%. We have one more month of chasing the delivery. We still have a number of projects to get over the line. Lots of them are little. We don't worry about those so much. There's one big one in there that is tough, but we've got a plan B for that. So we feel confident that we should get them all over the line.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Laura, and thank you both for all your work on that, because that was new and unexpected. So thank you. Tom, and then Stephen.
Thank you. I'm looking at 3.12A, which is the Downs to Sea project, which it's been great that capital has been raised towards that project. It may be the way it's drafted here, but it's 2.48 million of funding has been raised to restore and protect ponds and wetlands. Spend to date is 0.05 million with completion in 27. That might mean that the spend is going against profile and the bulk of the spend will occur towards the back end of the project, or it might mean it's slow in delivery. Could you just clarify a little, please? Page 36.
Tom, could you? Yeah.
Could you ask the question again, maybe in a different way?
2.48 million has been raised. The project started in 24. It finishes in 27, but only 50 grand has been spent. Does that mean that it's behind profile, or that is the profile and it will be back-ended?
The project is slow to start. Not that it's slow to start, but it's got a kind of a slow build. So yes, during the course of this year, Natasha was appointed, and then after that, Will, secondary officer, was appointed. That's all taken time, but that was all profiled in as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. Stephen.
Back to Laura's previous answer about the capital, the DEFRA capital. Is there any learnings from this year that we can apply to next year so that you're not running around trying to chase people up?
Yes. So Vicky and I met with DEFRA and reported back all of our learnings. So 6 months in, we did a review of what's going well, what's not going well, what would we recommend for next year. And we fed that all back to them. And subsequently, Vicky attended a meeting and delivered a presentation, didn't you, around our learnings and what we think for next year. There's lots of learning. I think the biggest thing is about the ability to start early. So because we had late notice of that funding and we had to get moving quite quickly, and we worked it out on the fly, really, didn't we? It took time for us to develop a process, and also time for officers to understand that process, think about projects, submit them, and then work with partners and procurement, and all of that takes time. So this year, what we've done so far is we put out a call at the end of December for projects. We set up the process. We have appointed a new panel, a broader panel, to kind of lead on sector expertise. We have got a defined set of projects, so a programme already shortlisted for analysis by the panel next week, I think, or the week after. Not next week, the following week, because Vicky's on holiday. So we'll be able to hit the ground running. All we need now is to hear formal confirmation that we have that funding. So we will be ready to go and hit the ground running.
That's good. Thank you. Any other questions on this? I apologise, drawn your attention to the fact that we have a new page 53, which was tabled for everybody in terms of the Treasury management performance. But I don't think there are any further questions. No. And report's really clear. Thank you, Vicky and Craig, for all the work that's gone into this one. Can I ask you, colleagues, then please to indicate if you're content with the recommendations? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to item 11, update on internal audit. Delighted to welcome Mark, who's joining us today. Who is Amanda, who's not Amanda. Amanda did send me a lovely letter of apology as well. Welcome, Mark. I'll let you get settled and then over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm equally delighted to be here today. I'm presenting 2.5 reports to you today because I sort of co-wrote the item 13, so I'll hang around for that one in case there's any questions around that one. I'll take item 11 first, our internal audit progress report. First off, we're making really good progress on delivery. You'll see there's just one that's in progress income processing. Everything else now is complete to final, so we're in a really good place in terms of delivery. I don't think I mentioned it in the report, but we're looking at sort of a reasonable assurance opinion overall, unless something terrible happens with income processing, which I very much doubt. So we're looking at a reasonable assurance opinion overall, just to give you an indication on that one. There's a summary of capital accounting and organisational resilience within the reports. The other point to mention, 3 medium actions not yet implemented. I think we've given reasons and excuses. They're not excuses, but valid reasons why they've not been implemented. Those reasons seem reasonable to me, but clearly it's up for the committee just to note and to monitor those going forward. That's it really. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Mark. Are there any questions? I would just like, I appreciate and thank you very much to our auditors for chasing up the actions. I am really getting concerned about the Seven Sisters Country Park action on cash handling because it was due July 24. So we are a long way adrift. And I do appreciate there have been staffing issues. I do appreciate they've been working incredibly hard down there. So I don't want Claire to take this or any of her team to take it personally. But I just feel organisationally it doesn't look good to have an action like that sitting on our list. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that. Can you? Thank you, Vicky.
We are in the final throes of putting that together. We have been referring to Brighton and Hove for their versions and their input in this as well, and making sure the insurance was actually right for it. But it is honestly in the last death rattle.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. That is reassuring. I just felt I needed to log concern. Obviously, that's part of our role. Any other questions? We did, as you all know, had an opportunity for informal look at some of the findings, and I know members had a number of questions then, which we've talked through. Nothing else from anyone? Okay, so can I ask you please to indicate if you're happy to note progress against the internal audit strategy? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on then to item 12.
Thank you very much. So annual strategy, audit plan and charter, crucial documents in supporting this committee's objectives in terms of ensuring there's an effective system of internal control and an effective internal audit process. Hopefully the plan really supports you in discharging those responsibilities. As is good practice, we met with SLT, what do you call it, SLT and chairs, that's the meeting, had a really, really robust discussion around the audit plan actually, and a proper planning process, looking at sort of opportunities and what that should look like going forward. As a result, we're presenting a slight change to the plan this year in that instead of key financial systems every 2 years, we'll be undertaking key financial systems every 3 years. Hopefully the committee are assured around that and understand why that is, and that just allows us to have a more varied and interesting audit plan that looks at areas of potentially higher risk than those areas. Other than that, it's the usual document that we put together. There's a table of performance indicators. Annex E has the list of audits that we're proposing for next year. And Annex B is the charter, which sets out our roles and responsibilities, reporting lines, and how we work and operate. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mark. And can I just also thank you and Amanda for the workshop that you ran online for us, because that really kicked off our discussion about moving from a 2-year cycle to a 3-year cycle for the standard items, which was really helpful. And thank you so much we obviously feel heard because the plan actually reflects a lot of what we were asking for. So thank you for that. Any questions on this? Yes, Stephen.
Yeah, Mark, looking at the 3-year plan, is there any headroom each year? So if something does come up, you've got the capacity to look into it, or would you have to move something out?
So the plan, I think we've done it before, the plan can and will change. We've we've postponed audits, we've moved audits around and dropped audits in favour of other ones. We've also got capacity to undertake additional audits, if additional work was needed, or, investigations or anything else. So the flexibility is part and parcel of the process. So yeah, we can flex it. Whether we could do something additional, not within the days I've got. I don't have any contingency. It's tight. I think it's 37 days off the top of my head. There's no contingency. I'm comfortable with the days for the service. Yeah, I don't maintain a contingency to undertake an additional audit. But I would very happily come back to with committee approval and flex and amend it if something new emerging risk occurred.
Thank you. And can I just ask a question, Mark, about the plan for next year? We've got a look particularly at planning income. And I'm just wondering how that sits alongside your regular income processing audit. Thank you.
So income processing looks at the systems and where the money comes from, and does it get reconciled, and does it go into the right accounts and everything else. Planning income will look sort of further upstream, I guess, at sort of the arrangements, what the arrangements are, how the income's collected, how we know we've got all the income for the planning function specifically. So it shifts it quite significantly from that part of the process.
Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay. Yes, Tom.
I was sent the internal audit report final. I don't know if now's the time to ask questions, but I did have a couple of questions about it.
Was that on the internal audit report for?
It's the internal audit report, capital accounting final.
Ah, right. Sorry, was that the previous item?
Apologies, I got report blindness.
Yes. Yes, but if you have a question, go with it.
Well, I think it's relevant. I mean, the audit judgment was to be a reasonable level of assurance, and there were a couple of risks that were identified as being of medium proportion, which are therefore significant. And the reason for asking is that there were some agreed actions that are due to be delivered in coming weeks, effectively, or months. One relates to the projects and performance team and finance team will generate a report to the P&R committee that adds more detail regarding milestones and deliverables for capital expenditure in relation to projects. The implementation date is the 30th of April. So I was just wondering if we could get an update on progress towards that being available.
Are you happy with that? Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I do have a draft report which I'm going to share with Craig, which should give you the quarterly updates on capital projects going forwards and give you the milestones there. That's my format so far, and I'll need to pass it by Craig in order to make sure he's content with it.
Perfect, thank you. So that gives assurance that the action is in hand, which is great, thank you. The other is that by the 30th of April, all project managers will receive training on the Civica system. And I was just wondering if the plans for that training are also in hand.
They are. I think by the 30th of April, it's going to be a hard push to get everybody through that, given everybody's workload right now, but that is the intention to do that, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, that's useful.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry, I whizzed through the item before you had a chance to ask your question. No, sorry about that. So actually, when we have our formal June meeting, we'll look forward to report that those items are complete, which will be great. Thank you. Any other questions then? Item 12, the strategy and the annual plan for our internal audit. No? Okay. Colleagues, can I ask you please to indicate if you're content with the recommendation? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on then to item 13, the SIPFA Code of Practice for the governance of internal audit. And I'll ask Richard to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, members, this is a new one that you won't have seen before, this report. It's to update you on the Code of Practice for the governance of internal audit. This Code of Practice came into force in April last year. And a big thank you to Mark for the work that he's done on this and the undertaking of the self-assessment as well as to how we're doing against the Code of Practice. Appendix 1 there, you'll see the various provisions of the code and our assessment against those provisions. In the main, we're conforming well with the Code of Practice. We have identified 4 actions arising from the self-assessment, which are summarised in paragraph 3.2 of the report before you, and we propose to ensure these actions are carried out over the course of this year. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments, and we've got Mark as well, who will be able to help with those also, and we're asking you, as well as noting the self-assessment, to approve the actions that are arising from that self-assessment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you both for this. I think it was a really helpful exercise to just match ourselves up against it, and the action list is very clear and hopefully quite straightforward. Any questions? Yes, Laura?
Obviously, I understand this is a new addition, but do we have any idea of how we compare to others who've gone through this self-assessment process?
Yeah, so we've done this for all Orbis internal audit partners and clients, and yeah, it does very well. And I've said previously, I think this audit committee, I refer to it as an audit committee because you're undertaking audit roles and responsibilities, delivers that really well and actually works really well. And interesting, I think, did you add an action or a couple of actions, Richard? I 2 actions. So I'd put 2 actions, which I think probably explains your answer in that actually just striving all the time even further, you know. And so a couple of additional actions is to set up a meeting with the committee, with myself and, you know, no senior members there. I mean, what I would say is that's what Richard's done there has gone platinum level, you know, over the, you know, not over the top. I mean that completely, yeah, at really high level. So, yeah, what we've obviously got is we've presented the charter. If I needed to, I would come and talk to the committee in private, you know, and equally I know that you guys would come and see me if you needed to. So this is just sort of like formalising the cherry on the top of the cake, if you like. So there was only actually 2 actions. So yeah, you're ultimately doing really well.
Thank you. Good question. Anything else? Tom?
It was on that. Is it diarised, that meeting?
Yeah. Can I just say something on that? Because actually I think this is going to be a good use of part of our away day. Partly a chance for us to meet with Mark to have that session with just us and Mark and not any other officers from the organisation, but also the need for the committee on our own to conduct an evaluation of our views of the internal audit service. So I think 2 or 3 of these actions that are on here can be done on that day. So in a way that's diarised because it's a the workshop day we've got coming up. But I do feel, and I think Mark does as well, that it's very easy to contact each other if either of us had a concern about anything. And I would obviously then alert the committee if that was the case, concern coming from the auditors.
Thank you. And I welcome it, as I think it's a very healthy opportunity for members of the committee, not just to have that open opportunity to discuss, but also to learn from each other, because there's a terrific amount of detail here. And for example, in the way that we've instigated the risk offline sessions, it gives the opportunity for people to debate and discuss, and that can spark really productive conversation. So I don't think it's about doing things in the absence of or in suspicion of the management team. It actually helps the committee as well to be more effective in its role. So I really welcome that recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, then could I ask for you to indicate if you're happy with the recommendations? Yep, thank you all very much indeed. Okay. We were going to have a break then, but I don't think we will. We'll look at the corporate plan first, then we'll have a break. So, Anne, welcome. Mark, thank you. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I think there was an exempt part of my report. I didn't know if you wanted to pick that up now,
right.
or, I'm happy to hang around.
No, you are quite right. My apologies. I did say at the beginning, didn't I, you were going to have a chance. Was there anything in the exempt part of any of Mark's reports that you would like to talk about in private session? Does anyone have any questions? It doesn't look like it. Okay. All right, thank you very much. My apologies, really sorry. Thank you for the reminder. God, just as we got a clean bill of health as well. I went and ruined it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, now, moving on then to the corporate plan, which, of course, is the organisation's delivery mechanism to indicate our contribution towards the partnership management plan over the next year. And I'm really, well, over the next 5 years, but specifically, we tend to update it annually. Really delighted to welcome Anne. Thank you very much. And I don't know if you'd like to say a few words of introduction.
Yeah, will do. Thank you, Chair. And just to note that this will be my last appearance at a P&R committee. It's been an absolute privilege and almost always a pleasure over the last 15 years to be presenting to the various iterations of this committee. But it's nice to bow out on something like the corporate plan. So, introductory comments. So as you know, the corporate plan sets priorities for the organisation for the next 5 years. We introduced that a few years ago to align with the management plan. We felt it was sensible to have a corporate plan that aligned with the same timeline as the management plan. We've kind of changed our approach this time round a bit, and you'll see that it looks a little bit different to some of the plans that you will have seen in the past. We've gone for a kind of theory of change approach, which we think is better because it tends to focus more on the impact that we're trying to have and what we're trying to do rather than being a list of things. So we think that's going to be a more useful way for members to track progress. We went through a very similar collaborative process to develop the corporate plan as we did with the management plan. We just did it internally. So it involved lots of meetings with relevant teams to make sure that they were comfortable with what was going in this plan that was going to be deliverable over the next 5 years to demonstrate how we're doing our bit for the management plan. And what we've done this time round as well is it's really important to acknowledge the important part that is played by all bits of the organisation. there's a lot of work that goes on in the background, and you've just done some of that work, that enables everything else to happen. And I think we felt it was really important this time round to properly acknowledge what you might call those enabling functions that make everything else happen. So what you will see is in some of the tables in the corporate plan, you will see teams like the procurement team, for example, are listed in nature recovery, partly because they have quite a big role in supporting some of the projects that we do for nature recovery. But at the end, you'll also see an enabling section which covers all the things you would probably expect to see, things like HR, facilities, IT, just to make sure that they're all properly there and everybody's acknowledged for the things that they do to support the organisation working effectively. One thing I would say about the format that you've got in front of you, it's not going to stay looking like this. This is a kind of working draft, if you like. Pretty straightforward in terms of its structure. You've got a forward introduction, you've got the priorities shared with the management plan, it's linked to the special qualities, sets out the principles and values that we work by. Then there's a high-level theory of change, which just sets out in summary overview the types of things that we are going to be doing to deliver the impact that we want. And then there are a kind of second set of tables which go into a bit more detail. As I say, it's not a list of absolutely everything everyone does, but it's the types of things that happen. And importantly, what you've got in those tables are targets. And what we'll probably end up with in terms of what the plan looks like going forward is a set of graphics for those targets. So we'll keep the tables because they're useful internally, but that might not appear in the final version of the plan, because really what's important is how we're delivering against those targets. So I've set all of that out for you in the paper. You've got the plan itself in Appendix 1. You've got the costs associated, fairly minimal really in terms of design. We don't usually print the corporate plan now. It will be online when we release it. And there's obviously some staff time in making sure that everything in it that's right, that's all covered in existing team budgets. So I think I would put the recommendation to you that you receive and consider it. And if you're content, to recommend approval to the National Park Authority, because that's where we take it next. If you do want to make any changes, you'll see there that there's a recommendation that you delegate authority to Alison, it will be, and Melanie to make any of those changes before I take the report into the NPA in March. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Vicky and Stephen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report, which I absolutely welcome the recommendations. I wanted to speak to and commend actually the comms and engagement team in delivering the activities cited on page 12 of Appendix 1. So obviously it's dark sky themed because that's a little passion of mine, but it talks specifically, the activities specifically are dark night sky monitoring and analysis and volunteer activity to support that delivery. And this relates to the sky quality monitoring and the capital funding that was available to purchase the little gadgets to do that, and then further engage community to go out and be part of that data gathering, which is fundamental as part of our dark sky classification, if you like. It's an annual survey that has to happen every year. So by extending it to the public like this in our communities is just really fabulous. I think it's a really good opportunity to specifically emphasise the role that citizen science plays in this space as a way forward in regard to other elements of the partnership management plan as well. So bravo for all of that. I just had another question as well about going back to the risk register. It spoke about a new communication strategy under development to support the PMP, and I wondered if this, the corporate plan element, because it aligns with the PMP, is that part of that as well? Just an out loud thinking on the hoof. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can just to clarify on the comms and engagement strategy, that will be a separate strategy that will come to you, I think probably May, I think.
June.
June, okay, yeah. So I think that's coming to you separately in June because the comms team have been a bit busy lately doing the management plan and now the local plan and various other things.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I think you're right, Vicky. Internal comms, obviously, for the corporate plan, I think probably is most important, isn't it? That everyone is in tune with it and knows exactly what their contribution is. But I'm sure our partners will be interested to see it so that they can see what we're stepping up to offer for the PMP as well. Okay, thank you. Stephen, then Arthur.
And this is a great plan, and thank you for putting so much work into it. It's clear and easy to understand. There is a however coming. The enabling function activities read to me like that's what the function should be doing anyway. It doesn't appear that is a specific effort to support this plan. I won't pick on any particular function, but you just have to read them through. That's their, be business as usual. So was that the intent, or were you hoping to focus in a little bit on what they could do specifically to support this?
I think it was really an intention just to make sure that they were recognised, because in previous iterations of the corporate plan, even their BAU wasn't acknowledged, and for a lot of different bits of the organisation, they can flex and prioritise different things to deliver the targets. For a lot of the enabling functions, their BAU is what they do, and they don't flex, and it isn't, it's harder to do that flexibly. So what we wanted to do, and we had quite interesting conversations with the teams actually about what we should put in this section for measurement, and almost to a team, they wanted to make sure that what they were doing was what other colleagues needed properly, which is why you will see a lot of satisfaction measures as part of this corporate plan. What we will probably do is a kind of annual compendium satisfaction survey that will go out once a year or maybe once every other year. And we'll use that to feed back into teams, because what they wanted, very clearly they said, was something that would help them to improve and change. So if something came back from a survey that suggested that they needed to be doing something different or to do something in a different way, they could do it. So we were trying to make those targets more to do with how services could improve what they do. So that's why they've kind of come out the way they have.
Yes, of course, Laura.
I just want to add to Anne's points well made there, that this is a team plan. So in order for all of us to get around this plan and all of us to achieve those targets, you have to see yourself represented in that plan, don't you? You have to be part of the conversation. You have to be able to recognise the targets and support the work to achieve those. So Anne, this might be her last P&R, but you will see her at the NPA with this plan. Anne was really clear to kind of lead those conversations to make sure that everybody was included and everybody had a voice in that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I've got Arthur next.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Anne. The vision here and the way it connects to the management plan is really clear and really ambitious for the team and for the whole organisation. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about, in the section about work experience and work placements. It says 100 work experience, work placements, apprenticeships facilitated by 2031. And so that's a few things there. That's work experience, work placements, and apprenticeships. And in the people in place, the teams column you've got on the left there, it mentions the range of teams, volunteering and support services. But if you could talk a little bit more about the thought going into what the nature of those employability opportunities are. Is it just with the rangers, of which there are very few jobs to move into, or is it a more diverse range of experience in those placements?
Okay, thank you. That's a really helpful question. So we have a a kind of entire programme of work, if you like, that is related specifically to providing opportunities for young people to learn skills. So these are different types of things, these are different programmes. So work placements are kind of where young people come in specifically for a week or two at a time, kind of more extended period, to do something specific. Work experience is more short term, so they tend to be a couple of days at a time and more groups of people coming in. Apprenticeships, I think people understand what apprenticeships are, so that's a much more long term. At the moment, we have apprenticeships across the organisation, so for all of these, it's not just ranger teams. It's a lot of other functions. So we've had apprentices in our support services team, for example. We've had them in planning in the past. So the work experiences themselves tend to be offered across the organisation. They'll be in different teams doing different things. So I hope that kind of reassures you. And obviously this is a 5-year plan, so these are 5-year targets, is why it looks high. We're not intending to do that every year.
Okay, thank you. Robson.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Just bouncing off that last one, are we, with the work experience and placements, is that something we're advertising, or is that more people are approaching us and asking? That would just be good to have some clarification on. And then I had a second question on the nature recovery section. The specific target just seemed slightly vague, and I know a lot of these targets do come from other targets we're put on us. That may be why it seems a bit vague. But it just says, establish and deliver a programme of water projects across the national park to improve the condition and biodiversity of rivers by 2031. I know it's not meant like this, but you could read that and go, if we do a programme and one metric for one river goes up, we've done it. So it'd just be good to have some clarification on, is there more on our level, or is it just because it's, I can see it's from the environmental improvement plan, so I'm gathering that's their wording, not ours, although I'm happy to be corrected on that.
Thanks, Robson. So I think in terms of, I'll do the last one first. So in terms of the water one, this is quite interesting, because if you look at the, and I've got my at a glance version of the management plan with me. So if you look at the specific objectives that are in the management plan, a lot of those are around improving the condition of water and around catchment-based partnership working. And in terms of what we can actually do, what we can do is have projects which do that. So I think I can appreciate where you're coming from in terms of vagueness. But I think in terms of our activity, because we don't directly really own any water bodies, it's really what we do through partners that's important.
The target is actually to create those
projects,
plans and projects,
yes,
as opposed to actually the water quality as itself is not what the
well, you would hope that as a result of those projects, the water quality would go up.
Yeah. Is the actual partnership.
So we'd be measuring the partnership, and we would hope that from the project would come the improvement in water quality that we measured as part of the management plan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, and what was the other one again? Oh,
the other one was just about the work experience placements, because I know a lot of organisations offer work experience, but it's actually you have to know someone and ask them.
Yeah, I think we try to advertise them as much as possible rather than it being someone you know, although obviously that does happen a little bit as well. But we do have opportunities that kind of go out and are advertised.
Thank you. Vanessa.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add as well how much I like how you've included the enablers, because it's so important for everybody to be on the same page, knowing we're all going in the same direction and where we want to get to. So I think that's great. I really love that. I just wanted to pick out just one thing, which was just about in our partnership management plan for our kind of climate change kind of objectives. We talk about local communities, and I don't know if they're mentioned anywhere else, but it just doesn't seem to then cascade down into anything that we're going to do, like supporting local communities. I mean, I'm thinking, you know, we can't do everything for them, but we need to try and kickstart things, and whether that's whether that's part of a comms and engagement strategy. But it's just like, it just seems like there's no mention of communities throughout the whole of the corporate plan. So I just wondered, yeah.
That's a really good point, Vanessa, and I'm wondering even that if we just included things like the parish council webinars and things like that.
Well,
that
I mean,
know,
my thing that I will continue to say until I die, if it doesn't go, like for many years I've said that these parish meetings that we do should be opened up wider to conclude all the voluntary groups that we have on our knowledge hub. And there's no talk, the knowledge hub. How do we start building that? We, Tim and I were on a trip this week, weren't we, talking about how you build communities, and we were almost in a retrospective compared to where we went the other day. And it's so important, that element of us as a local authority, what we can do that no other organisations can really do and tap into. And part of that for me as well is this ongoing engagement about the PMP throughout this 5-year process, and checking in with people, a dialogue, not just a one-way thing, like listening to people and feeding back in. It's really, really important in this country, people's sense of a lack of agency about things that go on around them. So I just thought that could be something that could, like you just mentioned, we're already sort of doing a bit of it, but we could enhance that for sure, easily. And I would just like to see, because I think growing nature, growing community is really, really important.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. That's really helpful. And I was just looking through while you were saying all of that. I thought you've raised a really good point there. And I think we can definitely look to add something in the activities column, because I think that's where we would need to capture some of that. If you're thinking that we need an actual target around that, we'd have to go away and have a bit of a think about what that would look like, because obviously we have got information in there about our own kind of activities as an organisation, but I think we could certainly add something into the kind of second part of what's in here that specifically talks about supporting communities, because we actually do that. So it seems like a bit of an omission to not mention that directly, so we can certainly add that in. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, because it's not a DEFRA thing and it's not a target that we've been given at all by DEFRA, it's easy to drop out. That's probably why it's there. But that's why I was just asking whether it could be something in that comms and engagement strategy whenever that comes. Probably would find a home there. But we should capture it, is what I'm trying to say. And it is really important.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cameron.
Yeah, so I apologise if this might be coming from the wrong angle, or more of a grammar mistake. I was going through my own at a glance with the PMP, and I just remembering from what we were talking about earlier about cultural heritage, there's a point in the targets for within the corporate plan. The target number 10, 115 scheduled monuments to have improved enhanced records by 2031. Yet in the PMP it says that we would have 200 of the scheduled monuments enhanced or improved records for. And then another one I sort of saw was sort of on the cultural heritage lead section, delivering 10 cultural heritage projects. 50 new creative arts responses to wildlife, whereas in the PMP it's 100. So it was more of a sort of a question of which way are we going? Am I sort of is this more of a corporate 15 will be, and then the rest will be done by PMP, or is that
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. So the corporate plan is very much what we as an organisation are going to contribute to the management plan. The management plan is a joint plan that is produced with us and partners, and us and partners are responsible for delivering it. So for a lot of the targets in the corporate plan, you'll see the numbers are different, because the numbers in the corporate plan relate to what we are going to try and deliver over the next 5 years. The numbers in the management plan are what we and partners are going to try and deliver. So we're not doing everything ourselves. So I wouldn't expect the numbers in the management plan and the corporate plan to be the same. Is that helpful?
Thank you. Thanks, Anne. I've got a couple of questions. Page 129 on partnership working at the bottom of the grid. I'm really pleased to see this in there because clearly it's vital for delivery of the PMP. The measure is looking at our influence on partner strategies measured through references. I'm wondering if that's a lot of work for minimal gain and whether we should just measure it by progress towards the PMP targets overall, because we're having to measure them anyway. And I was just trying to simplify, really, but I'll leave that with you to think about. And then my second question, and this is genuinely open, I saw reference to EDI throughout the document, but we don't have a specific strand. Was that intentional?
Well, it's not intentional in that we don't know. We know we do work on it, but I don't think because this is more aligned to teams rather than not all of it's aligned to teams, but we are still doing that work. But I think it's one of those things that it's always a challenge with that, whether you pull it out and do it separately or you thread it through. And I think we tried to thread it through rather than making it separate this time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I would just like to make sure we don't lose sight of it. And I think we are going to be put under the spotlight by our internal auditors anyway next year because it's in the programme for internal audit. So that was what was ringing bells in my head about, can I see it explicitly? And I can't. So we don't have our own EDI measures as an organisation in this plan. They may exist elsewhere, but the committee hasn't seen them. So I think that's something we'll need to pick up on. Thank you. Tom.
Thank you. Just reflecting on, and I respect, of course, the difference between this plan and the PMP. But one of the objectives at the top level, the national park is a nature-rich, resilient working landscape where wildlife flourishes. The in brackets bit that isn't written is because of the changing environment, and we've even spoken today about the obvious practical impacts. Then going into the PMP objectives, improve, expand, connect and increase the resilience of wildlife-rich habitats and land managed for nature. And then when you drop into the actual targets themselves over the page, establish and deliver a programme of projects to restore and create a range of wildlife-rich habitats. What it seems to me is that we've gone from what is an all-encompassing resilience objective to fairly fragmentary projects. And what I'd like to see explicitly is the link between those projects that are obviously within the control of this organisation and how it relates to the PMP. And it comes back to your point, Melanie, about demonstrable SDNP influence in partner strategies. That should be up the front, that what we're measuring ourselves against is our ability to bring all of the actors together to achieve those things, not just that. I mean, who was it saying earlier on about the example of the developer where they were asked what's on the other side of the road? Yeah. Well, it's West Sussex, if we're here, it's West Sussex County Council who's responsible for the road. It's a private landowner over there. Surely the role of the authorities to bring it all together. So I respect there are differences between the corporate plan and the PMP, but I wouldn't want there to be a sort of dilution of objective, because if you're asking people within an organisation to do something, it needs to be against a coherent sort of macro goal of which their part is part, not just delivering parts. So sorry if that's a bit wide-ranging, but because there's tons of good stuff here, I'd just like to see it connected together.
Yeah, I think just to say I was at the partnership meeting, as was Robson and Anne and Laura, and we definitely heard from partners their commitment to delivering those top-level targets. So it's there at the outset. It's sustaining that commitment. I think that's the real challenge for this organisation to ensure they can do that.
If I may, language is super important,
Yeah.
and this will be a sort of totemic piece of paper that people, or document on a screen that people will be waving around for a few years.
Yeah.
It needs to tell the whole story.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Yeah, so just picking up Tom's point, so it's showing us where we're the glue and not the do, and it goes back to, you know, Anushka's point of like quite a lot of her work is being in rooms, getting at tables, bringing everyone together. So, like Tom's saying, recognise that that's actually a role and should be measured, the kind of convening power and what we can do to build those partnerships and get things moving. Yeah, because you're right, because we don't. Just little bits all over the shop. That's not a narrative, is it? The narrative is how are we, you know, could be this us as an environmental asset, nature as a critical infrastructure. What does that, is there a kind of plan and a kind of cohesive sort of, story about where we're putting this all and layering on the local nature recovery strategies on top of that as well. So it's kind of like we're delivering this in a much kind of more strategic thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Did that make sense, Anne, in terms of any shift for the plan or not?
Yes, probably. I think I'm going to have to think about how that reflects in the targets. And we'll have to have a bit of a think about maybe how we write something in the beginning of the plan which picks up some of that. Because it feels to me like that might be the best place to reflect that kind of overall strategic link rather than trying to insert it in everywhere. So yes, thank you. That's helpful, and we'll go away and have a think about how best to add that in.
Thank you. Yes, Laura.
I just want to add, Tom, that that acknowledgement of the partnership working, of bringing people together across all the targets, and the glue, not the do, Vanessa, is really welcomed, because I've said it before in this room, partnership working is really hard. It's really hard, and sometimes we measure things that we see having been done. We're about to talk about Centurion Way. It's a thing that we've done. And so that kind of background work and that paddling underwater, to have that acknowledged and to, I suppose, have that as part of the narrative is really welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, can I ask, please, for your indications that you're happy with the recommendations then? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Anne, before you disappear, because as you said at the beginning, this is your last Policy and Resources Committee meeting. I know you will miss it dreadfully, because it is the highlight of your working year. But I just want to genuinely thank you so much. You've brought with you a really deep knowledge of the authority, you know, from its early days. You've brought all sorts of skills from your other roles that I can see in action every day. You've brought real leadership at that OMT level and really supported people across the organisation, and thank you for that. And you've always come to us with a very good listening ear and thoughtful approaches and real clarity. So I'd really like to thank you very much for that. We have got you a very small token. I am allowed to call him my lovely assistant now because he did that earlier. A small token of thanks from us. So thank you very much. And thank you, colleagues. And we'll have a 5-minute break now, reconvene at 25 past.
So sweet. So sweet.
Are we okay? Right, we're back on stream, colleagues, so thank you very much for returning promptly. Okay, we'll move on now to agenda item 15, and I'm delighted to welcome Hayley. Oh, no, it's not, it's Rebecca, sorry. I've got Hayley down here, and I looked up, and Colin. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
So I've brought this paper to you on behalf of our procurement manager, Hayley Madgwick, who's unfortunately unable to attend committee today. The paper seeks approval to commence a procurement process for a new single supplier ecological services framework to support the continued delivery of Centurion Way extension and delegate authority to the Chief Executive to enter into the framework contract. The decision will enable essential ecological work to support timely construction of the Centurion Way extension, ensuring continued progress on a key access and sustainability project for the National Park. Current framework expires at the end of April 2026, and ongoing ecological surveys and mitigation are essential to keep the construction programme on track. Just to highlight to members, the proposed framework will be let for a 2-year initial term from May 26 to May 28, with the option to extend for a further 12 months, rather than the 4-year framework as stated in the recommendation. The 12-month extension would be used should there be any delays to planned construction work. The paper records the framework value as £260,000 plus VAT. We also intend to include an option to increase the value of the framework by 20%, to be used in the event that any currently unknown issues arise during construction which result in the need for additional unforeseen ecological services. This will take the maximum framework value to £312,000 plus VAT. As the value of the proposed framework is above the relevant threshold for services contracts, this will be procured under the Procurement Act 2023 using an open single-stage tender approach, and this is recommended to ensure competition, value for money and sustainable delivery. I'll try and answer any procurement questions you may have in Hayley's absence, and Colin Carray, the Centurion Way project manager, is here to take any technical questions regarding the project. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Thank you, it was really helpful. Any questions on the paper? It's a fairly common format for us to be asked to do this. Yes, Vanessa.
Well, it's not a question, but I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased that you put in that contingency and the 1-year extension, all those sort of things, because that stuff happens all the time and it's just so frustrating if you have to come back. So I'm really pleased to see that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think it's all really clear. Thank you very much. We have got to, have I missed somebody? No? As I looked down, I was worried. Okay. We have got to amend the recommendation slightly because it says for a period of up to 4 years. Actually, do we need to amend it?
Yes.
Because it is up to 4 years.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
We're approving something different.
Yeah, okay. So we are approving a period of up to 2 years with a 20% contingency and an option for 1-year extension. So it's up to 3 years, not 4. Okay, so are you content with that changed recommendation? If you could please indicate. Thank you very much. So then are you happy to approve the recommendation overall? Yeah, thank you. Goodness me, that was easy.
Thanks very much.
You've come all the way here. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the work on the project because it's really making a difference. It's going
Thanks
well.
very much.
Thank you. Did you? No. Okay, moving on then. Agenda item 16. We've got the Treasury Management Strategy Statement. Many of us had a Treasury Management training session a couple of weeks ago, so we're all fully on top of this now. So, Vicky, would you like to say a few words of intro? Thank you.
Thank you. This is recommended for your approval. The Treasury Management Policy Statement, you'll recognise from Stephen Bedford's presentation, is about the transparency, risk and value for money associated with our policy. Our borrowing strategy is about our cash flow requirements for the forthcoming years. We don't tend to borrow unless we have a delay in our grant drawdown. So there is a small element of liquidity borrowing that is addressed in here. Also, the prudential and treasury indicators, which is about borrowing for capital spend, which, again, we don't do because we have our capital fund already. The last element of that is the annual investment strategy, which basically shows how we invest, where our investments are made. I'll try and take any questions if you have any. Bear in mind, I'm not a treasury management specialist, but I'll do my best to answer your questions.
Thank you, Vicky. When we had looked at this before, we were concerned about the ethical investments in terms of the organisations we place our money with. Paragraph 3.11, the ethical investment statement is currently under review. Thank you very much, or thanks to Craig and the team for doing that, because that was as a result of our discussions. I just wanted to ask, is that statement an integral part of the strategy? So do we need that before we can approve this? Or is that something that we could approve at a later date? No. Yeah.
We'll take it away, but if I recall, there is a statement that goes with the Treasury Management Strategy that's included as part of it. Obviously, that will come to the NPA for formal approval. So you're not approving the strategy today. You're recommending it to the authority for approval. So if you wish to make that subject to a suitable equality ethical strategy, thank you, ethical statement, then yeah, but you should expect to see that at the NPA, I believe.
Yeah, okay. I think it's important that we at least have a statement that relates to that, even if it's not the full document. I think we need something in there because it was of concern to quite a number of colleagues around the table. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Who did I see with that? Vanessa, sorry. Sorry, I know. I'm used to orange ones. That's
yeah, I just wanted to sort of reiterate what you said at the beginning, that we had a workshop on this and some training on this, which was really, really good. And we spent a lot of time on it, which has given me confidence in this. And I just wanted kind of wider people to know that. And also the fact that, you know, we're that understanding the way that the drawdown comes and the gaps and why we need to sort of borrow. But most of that is from actually Brighton and Hove itself. And yeah. Brighton and Hove, that is ethical. It's a public body. Mm-hmm. You know, they're really good. So, you know, that was all good. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for the officers for organising that workshop for us, because it's something that over the years we have asked for. So really thanks for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions on the TMSS, as it's known? Yes, Jerry.
Thank you. Just in clarification of what we've just been saying about the ethical investment dimension here. When we get to the full Park Authority meeting, we cannot not have a Treasury management strategy. So therefore, we need to ensure that that review is carried out within the next, week's few. Have we got that formally in place then?
I think what I'm saying is, instead of saying that we need the full document, ethical statement, whatever that looks like, even if at least there is a paragraph in the paper that says and captures the essence of what we have been saying about the ethics of who we invest with. Yes, that's right. So that that's in there so that members can hopefully approve it, because you're quite right, Jerry, we can't be without a Treasury management strategy. Yes, Richard.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I was just double checking to see where it is. There is the previous ethical investment statement is on page 159 of your packs, just above number 8, other Treasury matters. So this is in Appendix 1. page 159. So that is the current ethical investment statement, which is currently under review, so you should expect to see the updated one there.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Apart from that, any other questions? Okay, colleagues, could I ask you please, if you're happy with the recommendations, then please indicate by raising your hands. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on now to item 17. Pleased to welcome Claire Onslow. The Seven Sisters Country Park Performance Report for Q3. Robson's holding on to a question, so I mustn't forget. That's right. Yes, would you like to say a few words, Claire? Welcome.
Good afternoon, thank you, Chair. As has been said, this is the Q3 performance report that covers the period October through to December. Includes the challenging month of November, which is very quiet and can be a little damp, as has the rest of this period. But it also includes Christmas, where we have tried to buck the trend of a challenging season by having our Christmas market, which is a 2-day event, which is now was on its 4th year and has really grown in attention and attendance, and we have generated income and had a really nice sort of community feel for that event, which is very different to what we're ordinarily doing, but helps us in these quieter times. I know I'm going to come on to feedback of what I heard earlier in terms of health and safety, but in terms of a couple of other updates since this report was written and submitted, I am delighted to confirm the grazing licence is now signed. Dear me. And it's been signed to align with the period of our grazing, of our countryside stewardship, so that we can continue to do the work and build on that work, obviously with options for us and the grazier to exit should that need to be. The other grazing licence had already been in place, so we're fine with that. We made a comment in here about recruiting volunteers to assist us. And I'm delighted to say that as of this morning, in the induction, we have 14 volunteers helping us with visitor services and the welcome and that kind of stuff. 7 helping us with litter picking, which is a huge help, and 1 helping us with site presentation. And what we're calling with that is things like the weeding and the mowing that sometimes we just don't get to when we're really, really busy. So I'm really excited to be going into the new season with those extra people. We're very mindful it might be a little top-heavy while we get everybody inducted, but ongoing, that's a really lovely thing for us to have. And then picking up, if I may, a couple of feedbacks and feedbacks from your earlier comments on health and safety and where we've got to. If I can pick up river safety first, that may be your question. River safety first. Comms are leading on this work with all the partners involved at the river mouth, because it's not just SDNPA as a landowner, it's 2 local authorities, Seaford Town Council, Sussex Wildlife Trust, along with ourselves, and a little bit of National Trust too. So we like to make it a little bit challenging when we're dealing with work in that area. We have now agreed, I think, a sign that will go on the path down from Seaford Head to the river and on our side as well, just doing that kind of stick to the path, try not to be silly things. Obviously, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink, but that should hopefully be on site very soon. There are a couple of intricacies about where that's going to go on the our side of the park, but we're working on that in that area there. That's Comms have had a bit of a trial with all the partners getting that signed. We have agreed, and I must go and check in the station if it's actually there yet, with Southern Rail to have a poster in Seaford Station, which has the cliffs and kind of a little bit of a cliff safety message in their branding. So it's a Southern Railway branding, it's on that kind of way. And our next step is to try and get that in Eastbourne as well. Different people, different station, same company, yeah. So we're trying to do that, and then if we can push our luck, we might try and get it in Lewis as well, but that's an ongoing piece of work. Comms are also working on a larger scale piece in terms of working with
Cadence and Seaford Town Council in terms of stuff at South Hill Barn leading down to the river, improving interpretation and engagement with them in the nicest possible way. That's not Seven Sisters, so I'm kind of leaving them to do that connection, but obviously we're part of a bigger cause. And then we have started to drip feed again on our social media, those kind of like, oh, here's a river, try to not walk across it and that kind of stuff, which we're kind of pinning to the post. We've also today had the drone footage I've commissioned with some new images of that area that we can start to use on sort of ongoing social media and website messaging throughout the year. I had a good meeting with Ruth as we were both in the same place at the same time, and part of this year's work, which will help inform that, is to update our website, both as a quick fix and then a longer term plan for this year, and change our social media messaging. So it's a lot in hand. You might not think you're seeing anything, but there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes. But having had a very busy Saturday just gone, you can take a horse to water but not make it drink is very prevalent in my mind just right now. And somebody earlier asked about cliff safety, and I know Tim partially responded. So just the thing, yes, cliffs fall, and the big one at Burling Gap has given us all a little bit of thought process. We come under Wealdon in the same way that Burling Gap, so we are working with Burling Gap and Wealdon around some shared messaging. So for half term, we've duplicated with a slight tweak the messaging on our website that Burling Gap had around kind of like, you know, don't go on the beach because you can't get up at one end, there's limited access points. And I have an operational team meeting with all of the Heritage Coast partners in a couple of weeks, where again, this is on the agenda around how we can do that messaging. We're very conscious at the moment, we're one of a few access points to the beach right now, and what does that look like going forward? But that's a bit of an ongoing brief while we see what Wealdon are going to do with the SEPs and what that might look like, and hopefully I might have a more update from that at the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you. Teresa, you had your hand up.
So I was speaking to a visitor in Brighton who said they'd come with their family and they'd really wanted to go to to Seven Sisters, but they were advised by the tourist information that it wouldn't be suitable for them because they had a pushchair because it was muddy. But I remember when we went there as an away day once, that there was a path all the way down to the seafront, and we walked back along that path, and it was very good and suitable for disabilities as well. So I was wondering, are they saying the same thing to disabled people? Why would the tourist information say that? Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm hoping that wasn't our visitor centre that said that, but I think there might be a bit of interpretation. So an awful lot of people want to be at Coast Guard cottages to take the view of the Seven Sisters. The path that leads from along the river on the Seven Sisters side of the path isn't owned by us, and it's a track. So at the moment, with all the weather we've had, it is incredibly muddy. So if people are asking to go to that point, and they are with a pushchair, wheelchair, very shiny white trainers, any of those things, the advice we are given is this is what you can expect to find. And actually, even in high season, walking that path to the Coast Guard cottages will be tricky. We always do give people the option, certainly from us, that, you know, actually the accessible path is the concrete path that you remember. This is what you can do. But again, depending on the time of day they come and where the high tide is, they might be able to get to the beach, but they can't actually really see the Seven Sisters if the tide is in because of the location and where we are. And again, depending on what they had with them, getting up onto the top of the Seven Sisters. So I'm not going to say it didn't happen because, you know, people, but I think that interpretation of where people maybe wanted to go and the messaging that they are then given to make sure that everybody can enjoy the area safely is really important. Possible, that was Seaford Tourist Information Centre that also gave that information, of which I have very little control. But again, from our point of view, people come, we have to do that real, what are you hoping to do? Are you hoping to see? Are you hoping to experience? What are the tides doing? Who are they with? What are they wearing? What are the conditions out in the park? All forms our response that we give.
Thank you. Vicky.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've gone to 5.13, and I really welcome the inclusion of the social media metrics in your report, which is amazing, and it's a gluttony of embarrassment, really, isn't it? It's just highlights and successes. But I'm really pleased to see it says the top 3 most viewed Instagram posts in Q3 were 2 for the Christmas market and dogs on leads for migratory birds messaging. That's awesome, isn't it? Because so many of us across the park find that messaging really difficult. You know, I've just been, you know, Arthur and I were just discussing dogs on leads specifically about that. So I would welcome any kind of tips that can be shared more widely with partners across the park, because that is something that we all struggle with. So any kind of, can you share that please, so that we can then replicate it and help share the messaging? Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.
I would love to be able to say it was always that successful. We do have challenges with dogs on leads, particularly this time of year when the locals tend to come, or locals or more regional visitors tend to come and know that it's the countryside. So we've put a lot of investment into making sure that when you're off the main drag down to the beach, there's very clear signs, particularly as we've had cattle and ponies grazing in different areas, being really clear about expectations and what they can find in there. We still have the problem of dogs on lead. We took a slightly different approach with the post that was particularly successful, with some images the National Park had paid for with round dogs on a lead, and just went, oh, if you come in, it's bird season, oh, isn't it lovely, rather than the please keep your dog on the lead message. I dabble to try and see which ones are successful. On that particular one, I will say I was quite surprised at how well it did. But we are working as part of the lead rangers, I believe. I'm looking at Laura, hopefully. They've had conversations around similar issues at Butser Hill. So at a lead ranger level, there are those discussions. And if there are any learnings, we're all trying to make sure that we share it. But we've got sort of good images now on the library for the National Park that help us with that more friendly and advisory rather than the don't message.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other? Vanessa?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claire, for all that. It's doing a brilliant job. Thank you. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, which was the capital investment in the water troughs and the supply, and opening up that area for grazing, which just couldn't be grazed. And I just think that's something that we should all be aware of, that actually as we more and more want to do this kind of chalk grassland restoration and open up these areas and get more grazing, this probably will be replicated across the park. I would have thought, people coming in and trying to do these sort of things. So it's just quite good to acknowledge that. And then I also just wanted to go to 4.3 about the positive meeting with East Sussex County Council Highways about kind of traffic management, the verge parking. It started last Saturday. Was basically, we all can't get out because of the rain, and then as soon as the sun comes out, it went absolutely bonkers, didn't it, on Saturday? And I couldn't believe it. There was verge parking on very dangerous narrow bends. It's just insane, you know, people doing some very silly things. And I was just thinking, we've got to get the bollards out again. But my point, because Claire and her team do this brilliantly. They've got the cones out. They're doing their bit all along the road that's the Seven Sisters owned bit, or alongside the owned bit. But it's the next section up, which is a problem, and that's from the Forestry Commission, isn't it? Forestry England. And so I just wanted to ask if the Forestry England, if we found that right person, because I know there's a person missing. And really, for me, as someone who's on the ground there, I feel like the Seven Sisters team get all the abuse, if you like, all the kind of fingers pointed at them. Like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you sorting out? And they're doing everything that they can be doing, and brilliantly, and preventing this verge parking. But it's the next lot up, and it's like, how do we get... Is there any way that we can get the Forestry England people to start being a little bit more accountable in this space and a little bit more visible?
I found a new contact earlier this week, which I haven't actually contacted yet, but I have a new name, and I'm hoping that might give me a leeway into either that person or another person that can help. So that's been quite a long time coming. Thank you for the kind words in terms of what we are trying to do. We really do try. I'm not going to pretend we got it right on Saturday, because we really didn't, and I've still got a little bit of PTSD around how Saturday was. But we have tried really hard to try and have a plan in place. East Sussex have been mostly helpful, and then you ask them for the next question and they're a little bit slower, but I am trying to work with them. I think we've got to a point for the area which I can have sort of some influence over, potentially finding a way forward. How we fund that is another matter, but I think we found that way, and then there is a precedent set then for moving along the road and do that. I am a little thorn in the side of the Assistant Director for Highways at the moment, and I'm hoping that will just get me the answers I need, then I will go away very quietly. But the point we're also making to them is we need to resolve this quite quickly because the bridge is due to start work in June, and we need to get on top of this.
Absolutely. Sorry, Claire, is that in relation to fixed bollards to prevent that roadside parking?
Mixture of fixed bollards and signage. So I have a little bit of highways experience from my previous role. So they were thrilled when I came and said, well, no, I want you to do that and I want you to do this. We also need them to do some verge reinstatement. Now they've agreed actually some of that highway is their verge that needs reinstating. But it's likely to be an experimental mix of fixed bollards and signage to say, please don't, while we review and see how that works. Yeah. The concern for all of us is the minute you put a fixed thing in, people could still just park on the road and then we actually exacerbate the problem, or they move further up into the village. So we do need to be mindful that what might be on paper the solution could actually create larger problems, and obviously that's what we're keen not to do. So trying to work with highways and trying to find a solution that hopefully works, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Robson and then Stephen.
Yeah, thank you for the updates on the kind of river safety. It's really good to hear, and obviously, hopefully it will work. The one thing I would just add on, I know you said you're working with comms on that, the one thing I'd add is the reason people are getting so prevalent with that is because people are getting hundreds of thousands of views on the internet to do that. And so I think a slightly more unconventional approach of actually, it's maybe doesn't need to come from us, and looking at how we can get that message out through some of these people that are doing this kind of outdoorsy hiking, exploring content on the internet, I think is perhaps, whilst maybe logistically a bit more effort, will probably give us more payoff. So just if that's not what you're exploring, maybe look into that.
Sorry, I've been packing an events van to go to Dark Skies. Multitasking. Yeah, no, we're aware it's going to take, it's not going to be an easy or quick fix. It isn't coming from one source. It's like a multi-headed hydra that we're trying to deal with, but we have plans in place. I think it's going to take a number of different elements. One is about reframing the narrative. How we talk about the place is going to help. The language that you use, the tone that we take in our social media posts more generally. We're also working at the moment to identify some partners to work with on social media. I'm trying not to say influencers really hard. But the challenge is which community, who you choose. Because if you choose people who may do it responsibly, they're already doing it responsibly and they're not the ones causing the problem. But it's going to come back again to the information that we have on the website. So the restructure and the review of the website that we're having. So when people come in, because what we want to do is try and take ownership of #7sistershike, actually have that information. So what we're looking at the moment is exploring the option of providing that alternative. Why people like what goes out in social media is because it's showing them visually where you can go. It's not a map. If you don't read a map or you're not used to coming, it's great to see someone, you know what it's going to look like and you can follow that. So we want to tap into that and actually work with Claire and the team at Seven Sisters to identify a number of different ways to explore the routes and have people do different routes. So rather than just going, don't do this, because we don't think that's going to work, we want to kind of offer an alternative to that. But it's going to take a bit of time, a bit of trial and error. It's going to need to be, as I said, the revamping of how we talk more generally. So what we're looking at with the comms plan is some quick fixes and then some longer scale things that are going to work. And actually, Robson, it'd be really good to have you involved actually and get some input while we test some stuff out. If you're up for that, that would be fab.
Yeah, definitely up to talk further. The reason I say is I've spoken to people who their sole knowledge going to Seven Sisters is, I saw this person's 30-second video where they walked through a river, and that's their whole. So whilst I agree it's great that we get the website and our comms right, I think that, as you say, that harder challenge of how do we actually get the framing, and I think you're right in the sense of we need to create that kind of sensationalism, but about the much safer, less impactful
routes.
Tim, you were looking positive.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to say anything, but there's been a lot of talk, and it also goes back to the cultural workshop we had this morning and the visit to rugby. And I'm going to quote from something I saw, because this is all about giving people information and enabling them to make a choice, but an informed choice. And we sometimes can be a bit too directive, and you've heard a lot about the success of the take the lead thing, because we slightly toned it down. And we were walking in a site that in part was built around the need to protect and enhance newts and newt corridors. And it was really interesting because we talked to the chap who'd been sort of in charge of it, and there was this sign that really struck me. It said, "Fun fact," and it had a picture of a great crested newt. Although great crested newts can live happily alongside other newt species, like smooth newts, their larvae, known as efts, can often be eaten by fish, especially those introduced from garden ponds. So they weren't saying to residents, don't have fish in your pond, and they weren't saying, don't let your fish out of the pond. It was just a fun fact, and it was around the place. And James Scott, I chatted to him, very 2-second conversation, is that working? And he said, yes, we're finding that really successful. And so we can learn from so many different places is probably the message, but not being directorial and recognising some people will always be wanting to do that challenge. You're not going to stop that, but how can we make it as easy as possible for people to make that judgment? That's all.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a question from Stephen.
I've got a question about the Christmas market that looks to have been a great success and must have been a lot of hard work to set up. Do you feel the 40 stalls is about the right size for you now with regard to attracting people versus effort? And is that how you plan to go forward?
I'm running out of space to do anymore, so we squeezed every space we had. So we had them in the visitor centre, the pump barn, the turkey barn, and a marquee in Saltmarsh. I think we are kind of at that capacity of what we can deliver. The key is to make sure that the offer is refreshed and different, slightly different every year, and how we sort of package that around. If I could guarantee that it wasn't going to rain, do anything else, we could look at potentially some outdoor stores, but at that time of year we just can't do it. So 40 was the most stores we've ever had. It was the biggest one we had this year, and I think we're about at that capacity for that without causing us a major issue.
Thank you. Laura.
Just very quickly, I attended as a little helper, as a Christmas elf for Claire, and wore tinsel, which I highly object to. But just to let you know that I met lots and lots of great people down there, and I met a professional, I think, Christmas market attendee. She says she goes to them everywhere, and she said this was the best Christmas market she has ever attended.
Excellent. That's really good. Thank you. Thanks. I've just got a question. I mean, looking at your performance table, Claire, there's an enormous amount of progress and so on. It's always tempting just to jump on the 2 reds. And they are about the website, and thanks, Ruth, for dropping in. I just wonder, what's the timeline for being able to upgrade the website?
So the educational element of it. We had a great plan a year ago. We were going to do this, and we were going to work with the education team to do some downloads that there. Unfortunately, there was a capacity issue in that team that meant that we couldn't deliver that. So we needed the education resource to do that, to make sure that it was a tailored thing. That's now back on track. They have some ideas and thoughts. They're engaging with comms in terms of changing some of the mapping and some of that information. I've got a meeting in a couple of weeks. I think realistically it's probably a few months before we actually have a package to download something. But I don't want to rush it, because I want to make sure what we're offering is something that the education providers can use, and then we can build that into our wider audience. So that one's always going to be a challenge for us, because actually we were a little bit powerless to influence. The Miles Without Style, that will form part of our hopefully first quick fix changes on the website. We have discovered that how it used to be reported, something's changed in the reporting system, and so the figures aren't quite where they want to be. But having spoken to the lovely Sian, she's like, yeah, if we're doing it the wrong way, we need to make it integrated. I don't really understand. There was something. So as part of that, she's going to change the way that that Miles Without Styles thing presents, which means it should be much more focused. I'm hoping to get some stuff done sort of hopefully before season. So I'm hoping that's a much quicker response, and then we might actually have some data that's meaningful as opposed to that, which in hindsight isn't the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Tom.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. There's tons of really rich information, and it's really great to see all the work that's going on. But I'd like to be very dull and talk about the finances, if I may. 6.5, at the end of Q3, the SSCP budget was reporting a favourable position of 100k. With respect, I can't tell from that statement what that means and whether indeed 100k is favourable or not. What would really help is a small summary P&L by quarter, forecast, year to date, and then that puts that statement into proper context. And so if that can be included in future reports, that would be really helpful. It also refers to the full financial position is reported as part of the SDNPA financial update. I don't know what that is or where it is, so given that we're looking at this report now, it'd be great if that information was in there. Thank you.
Yeah, Vicky.
Sorry. The Seven Sisters element is reported in the body of the finance report, which is at item 10. Sorry, it's only actually a bit in there, but it will show you where the budget came out and that 100k in comparison to the budget. So that is in there. There is a more detailed report that we can put together with each of the individual areas of Claire's operation that we could include in that as well, though, going forward.
Would make it a complete report in its own right without having to dive through what is hundreds of pages of information.
I would thank you.
I would back that up because that has been asked before. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so perhaps if we can just include the table in there. Thank you very much. Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, colleagues. Claire, many thanks to you and the team, the wider team as well as the direct team, for everything that's going on down there. Colleagues, can I ask your approval for the recommendation, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. I think I do. Part 2, if needed. Minutes of the P&R committee. We've got our confidential minutes, which are on page 9 of the pink pack. Does anyone have any comments or questions about those?
If you do, we'll have to go into private.
Yes, and if you do, we'll then have to go into private session. No. Okay, right. No need for that item then. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much indeed. I now declare the meeting closed. Thanks for your contributions.